What's up, High and Logical? We're going to talk about modern oppression today. Oppression has been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and we are still dealing with our own versions of oppression that we deal with today in our society. So I'm going to break down a little bit of that and tell me what you think. Hopefully, approve, I guess, if you want to, because I will be kind of like stepping on my soapbox a little bit, just to kind of like breathe out on some specific subjects that do happen today. So to start off, the definition of oppression would be prolonged or cruel treatment or control of others, or even specific societies and so on. Or number two would also be mental pressure or distress. Now, how we can kind of break down oppression is kind of with a little four-point chart. First would be personal, for how it affects you. Second would be interpersonal, for how it affects everybody around you that you are close to anyway, or at least that are acquaintances around. Three would be institutional, of how it affects our society, our government, etc., etc. And four would be cultural, for how it affects other cultures around the world, to even cultures that are integrated into specific societies that some people look down upon. And yeah. So as I said, oppression has been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years, through tyrannical conquest of Attila the Hun, Julius Caesar, even if you want to consider Christopher Columbus a tyrannical conquester for back early when they were first discovering America. Not everybody believes this, but there are specific things that you can look at, like taking away most of the Indian land, even so to say, to just pretty much just kind of like start wars over this and stuff like that, to not even try to break that barrier of where you could probably live peacefully and prosper together. And that goes with a lot of other things that have happened. Or another example would be like religious subjugation, for the controlling of the society throughout religious views throughout history that we have had, from the Crusades to, I would want to say that the World War II with the Holocaust, that would probably be a good example of that. And yeah, there are many forms of oppression that we do not deal with today in our society, but we do have our own ways of oppressing others and other cultures and so on in our own society, through specific opinions, ideals, and just how we want to look at things, for our always the main point of view, instead of trying to see if there can be a different point of view from other people that want to put their ideas together to make the world better. So I'm going to break it into two parts. So it would be like minor oppression, which would be monetization, social class, age and look, past endeavors, benefaction. And then major would obviously be racism, sexualization, heteroism, colonialism, religious views, government. And so yeah, so I will talk about a little bit of each part here and when we continue. So for the examples of like social class, that would be of obviously if you are a known person, always on top of others because of your name, or maybe even through specific royalty, I guess, if you want to put it that way, or even just like coming from a known family that's really rich, powerful, so on. And the monetization goes really well with that too, because people always think that they have to be on top of each other because they have more money, even though that we're all going to go in the same place in the end, which is 6 feet under. So there's really no way that I feel that you should be able to judge someone just because that they have the lack of funds to be able to support your needs, or just to kind of make them seem like a better person with people, that when you have more money. And that also kind of goes with the whole benefaction thing, because some people want to benefit off people that actually have a lot of money, that are trying to do good with it, or they're constantly not wanting to work hard and do it for themselves, so they're constantly trying to make sure that they're leeching, so to speak, I guess, if you want to put it that way. And we do that in many other forms, compared to how we trade with other countries. Even just for like how we like want to, if I do something for you, you got to do something for me, so on and so forth. That kind of also leads into the whole past endeavors, because you told me you were going to do this, and I have to judge you because of what you have done in the past. And people always have to have a specific outlook on that, just because of what you may have done 10 years ago is apparently what makes you a different person now, which could be completely wrong, because a lot of people do go out of their way to change themselves for the better of themselves, and not even for the people around them, for people that are dealing with drug addiction, Either other psychological problems, mental breakdowns, and like the people don't want to be able to help you through those things, and they would rather just, oh, you remember that mental breakdown that you had last week? People, they would rather not have to go out of their way to see of how they can help you through that, and which is pretty bad because I'm always a nice person. I'm always trying to make sure that people are okay with how they feel with themselves. People should be okay to feel good about themselves, good about their body, good about what they have, instead of constantly having to count what's on the checklist. They're not reading their whole what I already have and why I should be grateful for all these things, because I don't have a lot of money, so I'm gonna hate myself and have to constantly just feel down, feel sorrow, just because that I'm not what the self-image of most people expect me to be, which is always a big thing too, which is kind of goes along with both of these things that I've said of minor and major, because it always has to look at a self-image instead, or a whole point of view instead of your whole self-image. That's what I should have said, just to actually feel good about being around people just because you're going with the masses instead of just being yourself for who you are, what you think, and how you do things. Age and the whole age of look thing is kind of just, I feel, stereotypical, because you're 35 and you don't have any kids means that you're a bum, or you just don't want to have any close engagement, or because you are 23, you have a kid and you have no spare time to do anything, then people are looking at you like, oh, you're boring, so now you have nothing to do, because I have all these things that I want to do, from trying to better myself to better other people, to do group things like music or anything like that, so people are just constantly having to bash about your age, about what you're doing at your age, or your looks, because you're too old to do that, or you're too young, you shouldn't be doing that, and all these minor things are what I feel is minor. They might not feel minor to you, but they are at least the more minor aspect of how we oppress each other, instead of constantly think. And then a lot of these also deal with how you deal with them yourself. And it's okay to, like I said, to not have money. It's okay to be 35 and still trying to go to college. It's okay to be behind. Like, no, everybody works at their own pace, obviously, as I've stated in plenty of my other videos, and it is a pretty general notion that most people should know. And now we move on to the major. This one is what I was talking about, was kind of getting on my soapbox, because with all these different things that are happening throughout our world, that we can't ever seem to knock off things that we keep doing in history throughout racism, or sexualization, or colonialism, or our religious views, or our political and government views. These are constantly a clash between people all the time, and especially politics. Politics are a big thing that people do not really want to agree on, instead of just how they can look at it from both aspects to combine together to kind of, I feel, actually what would be better for us, our country, even for how we deal with like the Secretary of State, of how they deal with other countries and stuff like that. Like, we always have to go off of opinions, ideals, and no more is it really where people are doing research. Now with racism, we have been dealing with racism for long enough, to the point that even still to this day, that nobody can still look at a person of a different color and consider them brethren. So, like, even if you are not blood related, to still look at them as an equal. And I'm not to this point to where I'm really trying to please anybody about this, because everybody should know that even if all lives matter, then why still you not matter about Black Lives Matter? If that is also the case of where it's always about all lives matter, then why are there kids being taken away? Why do we have to separate families when we are sending them back to their other country? Like, this shouldn't be a whole thing to where it's like, oh, because of this, I don't want to look at the actual bigger thing that's actually happening, when you should be supporting them and actually helping them through these struggles, instead of having to make it even harder for themselves to actually get their point across. I don't have really any more to say to that than just that. I'm usually that person that likes to kind of be unbiased in any way, shape, or form, but that is how I feel, to the point to where racism should not be a thing that we need to deal with anymore. We should be able to look, as I said earlier, we should be able to look at people of a different color of skin, or even for heterosexism, if they're freaking gay or bi, it doesn't matter, because we're all the same on the inside. We all got flesh and blood. We all go to the same place, and just because that they have a different skin color, they speak a different language, doesn't make them any different than us, because half of them are going through the same thing that we are dealing with. And people don't understand that, yeah, we do somewhat have it good in the United States. And at that point, do we not really look at how other people are going it through other places, even in other cities in our own country? Because not every other city is the same. A lot of bigger cities are poor. A lot of places do have ghettos and stuff like that. So the point to where racism is a constant thing of where we have to subjugate of what happens, because most of the system that we have dealt with through countless of years of being a nation, to the point to where we still won't even look at a person of being colored to look the same as I do based on job qualifications, or just even buying simple things like a car or a house. Like, how can you not feel for them to know that they are being oppressed in any way, shape, or form? And then, so to step away from racism to go to heterosexism is that we shouldn't have to be forcing them on to be who they like, how they do things, just because they like men, they like women. It doesn't matter, Now with sexualization, we have to constantly have this whole bias on men and women, what men are supposed to be doing, what women are supposed to be doing. The main image that we give men and the main image that we give women. Men, it's a whole thing to where it's always the one thing that is that women always don't want to support the men, and men don't always want to support the women. And it's at the same time, is that just because they have different body parts, does that still make them any different than me or their opinions or anything like that? No, and neither should for you. And as I said, this is all personal. I'm not forcing you to have to think a specific way, because I know that change is specifically hard. But if I don't say anything, then how can anybody really bring change? Nobody wants to speak up because everybody's so scared of being told how they're supposed to be thinking and how they're supposed to be acting based on what we have been taught from past generations, from other like 5 generations and up. So it's a constant thing to where we have to keep lashing at each other for what we believe in, how we need to look at things, why you should vote for this person, why you should vote for that person, why they're taking our jobs, even though some of those immigrants that are coming into our country are citizens just like you are. And with colonization, that's that exact factor. We don't want to bring in other people from our country because America is ours, people want to say, but yet we can let people travel to any other country. Some people even want to move out of their own country just so that they can go experience something different. And it doesn't always involve people coming to us, but you can't tell me that there isn't anybody in the United States that doesn't want to live in the United States and possibly go live in a different country. Not just for specific society reasons of money, politics, or anything like that. Some people just want to experience something new. And even with that too, is that we are the land of opportunity, where we should be able to give people these opportunities to be able to do these things that they can't do in their own country. And as I said earlier, is that people don't really understand of how somewhat good we do have it. As I said, we have our own personal ideals and freaking opinions about how we want to view things, about how the government is fucking with us, or how freaking everybody wants to have put racism as a factor, and so on and so forth. But we do at least still give that opportunity to bring change, and everybody in the world, even if they're not our country, should also be able to bring change regardless of what they look like, what they believe in, etc., etc. Religion views, I feel like, has gone into a more of a downward spike, from what I see anyway. Obviously, a lot of this I have researched, but it's more of a collected opinion that I've formed into one. And especially if you think about all these things that I've been talking about when it comes to that little graph of the 4 points of personal, interpersonal, institutional, and cultural, you can now see what I mean by that when I have said that earlier about how these all affect us. All 4 of these affect at least us in some way, shape, or form, if not at least still everybody. And with religious views, I feel that that's kind of a little bit more of a downward spiral of consistent oppression, yet I still can't say that it's not something that people do like to throw upon people that they don't believe in a higher power, that they don't believe in this specific religion. And we still even deal with religious wars and even religious confrontation about specific lands to this day that have been going on for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And with governments, this is also kind of like a somewhat shaky subject, just because that when it comes to all these collected ideals and opinions, we don't really know what we want to believe with anything that I have said, because when it comes to social media, which has a big impact on a lot of these things that I have said, because we want to feel on top of a majority for our opinion instead of pushing them all to the side to help everybody. They always want to look at the personal image or the personal opinions to form of what should be going on instead. And of course, that is a way of contradicting myself, because I am trying to tell people of how there is a way to be doing things, but it doesn't have to be specifically my way. There's many things that we can do to bring together of how we want to treat each other, how we want to coincide with specific other countries that don't like us, or even to the point to where we can actually still all prosper as a world, instead of just having to constantly put up these boundaries of we're here, you're there, my opinion's right here, and it's not moving from where your opinion is. And this, like I said, it's just a consistent confrontation. It's just consistent butting heads the entire time. And nobody ever just wants to put them aside just to do for the specific betterment of people. And that's what I do want to see, at least in some way, shape, or form, is that we get over some of these things that shouldn't even be a problem anymore. We shouldn't have to look at men constantly being the caretaker. They have to make sure that they always have the good job, the paying things. We always have to make sure that the woman is satisfied, constantly making sure that she's dependent. And that's a big thing too, is that we're constantly thinking that we can't always have to depend on each other with the benefaction that I was saying with the minor, that it's always a specific thing that we have to work off of each other instead of being able to work on ourselves. And not just with the whole monetization, but also with self-care, being able to at least say to break yourself out of dark places just to make sure that you feel happy about yourself. And that also has, like I said, an effect on your working on your past endeavors, how you are in social society, and also putting aside your major oppression ideals of racism, sexualization, and heteroism, colonialism, religious views, and political views, just to make sure that you can actually feel good about yourself, and also make sure that people can feel good without just being themselves, instead of just having to bitch slap them in the face and tell them they're wrong, because that is legitimately how we love to run things in this country. I hope that this little outlook that I have given you kind of at least just changes your ways of how you want to look at things. As I said, I don't expect this to really be a whole thing to where people are expecting me to change them, because obviously that kind of contradicts my whole thing about what I'm trying to do on YouTube, to the point to where I'm trying to control people of how to think. It's just open your mind a little bit. Open the Pandora's box in your brain just to see what else is going on, to grasp that godly soul that you can put into yourself to freaking make you, and not freaking feel like you have to succumb to other people's needs or wants, or to have to feel like you need to overpower other people because you feel like you're better or better or inferior. But otherwise, that is it. That all I have now. Please let me know in the comments what you think, and if you hate this, I don't care. I've kind of hit this whole little epiphany the other day that I'm kind of done with this whole pleasing people thing, and I've kind of been over it for a while. But there's only obviously a specific boundary to what I mean when I say that, and there always should be a specific boundary that you should set for yourself, for how you please people to how you want to make sure that things happen in your life. Because if you're not a go-getter, you can't expect to get what you want by constantly wishing on it and dreaming on it. You got to work hard for it, and especially even for trying to bring change, you got to work hard for it. You got to be able to take the heat, and you got to be able to still open your voice about it, even if it's all that backlash that you're going to keep getting is just going to keep putting you down, regardless of of any of the minor or major statements that I have said or brought upon your awareness. So like, comment, subscribe, share. As I said before, please let me know what you think, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Your soul is